We're here today to interview Lorene Landreth. She's legendary in our West Point community and beyond because of her work she did to establish Lumberjack Day. This year will be the 49th year. So next year is 50th, and we will have a celebration for sure. But what we're interested in, Lorene, is how it started.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we started it as a project with the parent-teacher group, and we wanted to get the kids in West Point Elementary involved in a parade. So that was the beginning of it, and we had no money. So that was the first thing, was Joyce and I trying to find a way to generate money to pay for trophies and insurance and all the things that are involved. So we spent every summer for several years going to the businesses in Calaveras and Amador County and asking them to sponsor a class for the parade. And then we would take that money and buy a trophy. So that's basically how we started, was begging. And it was not something Joyce and I wanted to do, but we did it. And that was the way we got started. And then the minute we got Lumberjack Day established and started, and I can't remember for sure, but dates have changed. I think we were early September in the beginning, and at one time West Point had a celebration. They had it in July, but we wanted it in the fall when the logging season was slowing down and when the elementary school kids could be involved. So we started the September date, and then it went, finally we established a permanent date of the first weekend in October. But, and then we started, of course, trying to have fundraisers on Lumberjack Day itself. And one of the, we had some booths, or what little booths we had, hot dog stands, whatever, were just on Main Street, here and there, local people. And I don't remember, we probably charged $10 for a booth, not much. And we had no traffic control other than locals. Well, I got, my husband was in the logging business, so we got members of the loggers work crew to man the streets. They would have 3 or 4 guys at each street to keep motorcycle clubs and things that we didn't want downtown during the celebration. They manned the streets. And one of the first fundraisers we had was beer wagons, and local gals would drag or pull a wagon around town with ice down beer. We sold beer, so that helped us make money. Probably about the 3rd year, we come up with T-shirts and start selling T-shirts. And we always had something on with the Lumberjack Day celebration itself that a dance usually. And many years had a dance with the Renegades, which was a very favorite local band members, people, young men and women from San Andreas area. It was a great country band. And we'd have a dance at the firehouse. And I know one year at the CBC Hall. So that was another fundraiser. We did that until we got too old and too tired to do so much, because after working all day to have the parade go down the street successfully, then we would have to come back at night and try to take care of a dance, 10 bar and do all of that. So we did it for several years, and then that was a good fundraiser for us. So one of the things we did was, a favorite story was, we were given a pony, and I kept the pony because I had a facility to keep a horse, and we had a lot of trouble with her because she would get down on her knees and crawl out of the corral and escape, be in the yard, do things we didn't want her to, places we didn't want her. She was blue-eyed, so she was a blue-eyed pony. She was cute as she could be, but no training, just a pony. So we decided to raffle her off. So we sold raffle tickets, and did very well. I think we made $500 on that pony, and because everybody wanted to win the pony, so some people did win the pony, and we were very happy to get rid of her. We had her in town, had her in the parade and everything, and so when they brought a trailer down by the firehouse, and they were loading her, and she wasn't going to go in that trailer, so they were hitting her, beating on her, more, or I thought they were. So I offered to buy her back. So I paid $100 for this pony that we were desperate to get rid of, uh, so that the people wouldn't be mean to her. So we got Penny Pony back. So and whatever happened to her down the road, I gave her to a family. But my husband, we got ready to go home. We were taking this pony home. He couldn't believe it. How did you end up with the pony? I said, because I paid $100 for her.
Oh, my goodness.
So that was a fun story. That was probably about in 1980. One of the big supporters and it was Jim Retzloff, who was the general manager of P&M Lumber, and he was a big supporter of Lumberjack Day. And I know he bought a lot of raffle tickets. I can remember that. So that's kind of a little overview of what we did, but we were constantly making money. We also raffled off a really nice painting by Lillian Fisher. It was an outdoor painting. It was kind of a camping scene. And we had a dance in Railroad Flat, and we raffled that painting off, and we made good money on that. A person who won it, I'm sure, has enjoyed it over the years because it's a wonderful painting. So that was another thing that we raffled off.
Now, Lorene, the logging was an important aspect of it.
Right, the logging show. When the logging show started, kind of like it is now, it was up the street, up where Arterbury Center is. That was just bare property. So that's where we had the logging show. And at that time, the main competitor who came every year was George Harrison, who still comes. His family, his sons and grandkids are the main participants in the logging show even today. And but I discovered after a couple of years that George was not coming to I was paying him to do the logging show, and he was entering all the events and winning. So I was not real happy with him. So we had quite a not a very pleasant discussion. I pretty much told him I didn't want him around. But he still comes. He's still very involved in the logging show. Mm-hmm. So, but he competes all over in logging shows, not just West Point.
That's why he wins.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a professional logging contestant, running chainsaws and that sort of thing. So that hasn't changed any. He's still here.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he still comes.
Does he participate?
Yeah, him and his kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, his kids and grandkids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few locals who I laughed. I have a cousin that lives in Railroad Flat, and he always came to the logging show. He always laughed and said, "Well, I'm here to donate to George Harrison's retirement fund," because he paid all the entry fees and entered all the contests and knew darn good and well that George Harrison was going to win.
Right.
So that was.
This was a big job for two women to do. And I'm going to say that Joyce Ballard wasn't able to be here because she's not well. But the two of you.
Yeah, well, we started, the day the Lumberjack Day parade was over, we started working on the next year. Right. And because we had horses and we rode and competed, we brought in a lot of horses. We had absolutely fabulous horse entries. They were all California State Horseman champions. I can remember one of having a poster in the windows all up and down Main Street of Marion Bubeck, who was an absolutely fabulous Arabian costume entry. And she rode an Arabian stallion, and he was absolutely beautiful. She was a state champion. We just had many, many entries like that. But it's because Joyce and I went to the parades in other towns and invited these people. And that's why we got them to come.
Well, you and Joyce were entered into parades.
Oh, yeah.
With your two horses.
We rode matched pair competition. And it took us a lot of years before we ever won. We had a lot of competition. And I don't know, we always thought it was a little political because we would always lose by 1 point. And we could never figure out how come we could. And but when I got to paint horses, that was another story. They were too outstanding to, we started winning, and the people that we were competing against quit.
Oh.
That was the end of their parading. But
the parade used to be very big, very big.
oh, it was over
Because
100 entries.
Yeah, with the horse entries and
Bands.
bands.
We had a band that came from Douglas County High School in Minden, Nevada, and that high school band came for years, and they were very outstanding. And they only quit coming because they had a big band competition in Reno that it ended up on the same date as we were on.
Right.
So that he had the band teacher, he thought it was a really good outing for his kids coming over 88 and seeing the fall colors.
Mm-hmm.
And they were outstanding. It was, when we lost them, we felt really bad
Right.
because they were just outstanding.
I was telling Lorene about the state capitol because I took my third graders there some years back, and I told them to take a look at the county displays. So these big displays from every county sends in. And I said, you'll notice something special when you see Calaveras. So they were scampered over there, they were looking, and one of the kids yelled, "Oh, there's a thing about Lumberjack Day there at the state capitol." So I was thinking about that recently, and I thought, I've got to go back and see if they changed it.
Yeah,
But Lumberjack Day was such a tradition.
yeah. Well, getting the school, I don't think any of the kids that were involved in the 80s, 70s, and 80s in that parade will ever forget being in the parade. And we always had a theme that was very conducive to some kids doing something. But we had every class in West Point in the elementary school participated in the parade. So you're talking about what?
At the time, 200? maybe?
300 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know one of the entries was, one of the themes was, I don't remember the theme exactly, but I know third grade did the Good Ship Lollipop. And the kid, I had a little girl in third grade that looked just like Shirley Temple. She was so cute. Oriole Collins was her name. And we had a boat, borrowed a boat, had that in the parade, and the kids were riding in the boat and did that. And we had a lot of themes that were conducive to the kids doing something. We had a circus theme, and we had book titles, and
Oh, I was in that one with my class.
yeah. That book title was a great one. But just some of the outstanding entries, like I said, the U.S. Navy drill team from Mare Island, the U.S. Marine Mounted Color Guard from Barstow. They came several years. People in West Point gave the Marines a place to stay, and they also stayed at the firehouse at the CDF. And those young Marines just had a ball at West Point. They came to the dance that night, and all the young girls were thrilled at all these handsome young Marines being at the dance. She was a United States champion majorette, and she was only like maybe 10, 12 years old, that came to West Point every year. She was a fantastic young lady. I do not remember her name. And the Douglas County High School marching band from Minden. And we always had dignitaries. Assemblyman Norm Waters was always in our parade, and so was John Garamendi, who was at that time, I don't know, U.S. representative, I guess. Mm-hmm. But one year he got here really late, and he didn't have any transportation, and we loaned him one of my horses, and he rode through the parade on a horse. And Farrell Kruger logging truck. Farrell came every year. every year without fail. So those are the things that made the parade outstanding. I mean, we knew we were going to have beautiful little logs and in the parade every year for Farrell. And the O for Prison Band was another one that came out of Sacramento, and they were comedy. They were dressed funny and did funny tricks, and we had them a couple of years. Tuolumne County Sheriff's Posse came every year, just faithful. Really nice entry. Then I don't think I've mentioned Bobby Freeman, who was an entertainer from the Nevada casino circuit, who came. And he really jazzed everything up. He wrote a song about Lumberjack Day and sang it as he went through the parade. And the Wells Fargo Stagecoach, we had that almost every year. And I know one year we had my mother was absolutely thrilled to be able to ride in that stagecoach. We had old timers riding in it, and it was just a big thrill for her. Something one of her bucket list things. So that's some of the. Oh, another thing that we had that people have probably forgotten is we had smoke jumpers. Oh, because at the time Landreth and Cassini logging had an airplane, and he picked the smoke jumpers up at the airport in San Andreas and flew them up to West Point, and they jumped out of the plane right by the post office, landed right in there behind the post office. It was women, smoke jumpers. Wow. And we did that for several years. And of course, they always had a trail of smoke as they were coming out of the airplane, trailing behind them. And so that was quite an event. Yeah. But it's because my connection with Landreth logging and Landreth and Cassini. So that was a biggie. And of course our CSHA champions. There couldn't have been, we had absolutely fantastically beautiful horses. Say what CSHA is. CSHA, California State Horsemen's Association. Right. Was what they represented. And in later years when I rode in the Rose Parade, I was with California State Horsemen. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that. I mean, because when Lorene is mentioning all these different things that happened over the years in people, that's only because of a lot of hard work and making the connections. Yeah. You need to call people, you need to have met them. Once you have them roped into Lumberjack Day, they'll be coming back. Yeah. It's a lot of work. When the parade was over, that next week, Joyce and I sent out a letter to everyone who had been in the parade, thanked them for coming, gave them next year's date. We want you back. Mm-hmm. Stayed right on it. And a lot of people stayed at my house. I had places for horses and people could camp. And so Joyce, it's because of the efforts of Joyce and I that most of them were there. Right. But we were so proud of our parade. Because that is a dying thing. You're not going to see many towns having parades. West Point's real close. For one thing, too many permits, too much, afraid you're going to get sued, and expensive. I mean, you don't just come to West Point with a horse for any less than $500 by the time you pull a horse trailer up here, the gas, and just the gas alone nowadays. So, I hate to see it go away because I always thought that was such an important part of a small town's history and their, And it was good for West Point because all the local organizations were able to participate and have a booth, make a little money, and the kids I think that the kids that were in the parades in West Point will never forget that. And I think it gives them a sense of America. What a sense Americana. Of place and how a sense of place and how we're part of as our small community, but also a larger community because of seeing people coming to the parade from all over. It's changed in the sense that the booths have expanded. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
there's a lot, but that's local people with a booth that get to come and share their work, and they come from far and wide.
Mhm.
So that's another aspect of it that's pretty wonderful. Then you always had a grand marshal.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, our very first parade, Paul Brewer was the announcer, and he was great. He was uh, well versed in parades. He did a lot of parades in Arizona in the wintertime. He was a snowbird, and he had a great voice. He just stood on the corner there by across from the West Point Market and did it. I guess we had a loudspeaker, but it was pretty minimal. But he was a great announcer. He really was, and he did it for several years. And then once Paul retired, didn't do it anymore, we had Bill Bird, and Bill Bird was outstanding. He kept the parade going. He was humorous, had a great voice. He just did a really good job. Really good job. And when Joyce and he was there, he did it every year without fail. He was faithful. We never had to worry. We knew Bill was always going to be here until Joyce and I retired. And when we left, well, he left. But and he's been very hard to replace.
Yeah, yeah. So grand marshals, I know you gave me a list here of some grand marshals. It's not by year, but how
No.
do you remember that?
That's yeah, right.
This is a long list of people
Uh-huh.
that were grand marshals in the parade. And we can't forget about, where am I looking at the list here? Randy Carlins.
Oh, right, Randy's floats, yeah. Yeah, the Sandy Gulch Sign Company, is that what it was? Yeah, yeah, he always, well, that started years ago with Virginia Rathbun and Jan Bryan did a lot with floats. I mean, outstanding floats, incredible, big, with life-size dinosaurs on them. And
Moving parts.
yeah, yeah, a lot of people came to the parade, I'm sure, just to see what Randy's float was going to be.
Yeah, I was telling Lorene, I saw Randy the other day and asked Rand if he was going to, had his plan for Lumberjack Day, because he's always the last entry in the parade. So everybody waits to see what he's up to. And he goes, oh no, it's too early. He's well known for
Tonight.
waiting till the last week before and then scrambling to put it together. It's always amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Randy always did a really good job.
Yeah.
But I think I've mentioned everybody, the main big things in the parade.
Well, you brought some pictures, and I want to share this one. Do you remember what year this was?
1986.
1986. And there's Joyce and Lorene on there.
They're just,
You don't have your paints there.
no, I don't have the paints yet.
Yeah. I recognize people in the background. And then this is 25 years.
Yeah.
And there's your paints.
And those are the horses that went to the Rose Parade.
And I was telling her, you guys look beautiful. She goes, well, it's mainly the horses. And I said, okay, all four of you look beautiful.
I was really proud of those
Oh,
horses.
my goodness. Yes. Well, I'll tell a little story. I had Peruvian Paso horses, and my daughter and I would ride them in the parade.
Uh-huh.
And then one year, you were so kind to give us a trophy for matched pair.
Oh,
I thought that was awfully sweet, since they were just the queens of matched pairs, but that it meant a lot to my daughter too.
oh, I don't remember that, but
I
good,
do.
I'm glad we did.
You did.
Yeah, we didn't need it. I had trophies coming, my barn is lined with them, and they're covered in cobwebs out there.
Trophies, yeah.
Trophies.
But that's kind of what Halloween is, just always looking after people, doing.
The worst thing that happened to us was St. Patrick's Day Parade in Sacramento. It was in old Sacramento, and we got parking tickets. They told us where to park the horse trailers, And so while we're riding in the parade, somebody came through and ticketed every one of those horse pickups with horse trailers. We weren't very happy, needless to say.
No, no.
Kind of a low blow.
Someone told you you could park.
They told us we could park there,
Yeah.
yeah. And then somebody came by, and City of Sacramento or somebody, and ticketed all of us.
Oh, well, tell me about an event that happened with the horses. That's kind of interesting.
Oh, gosh, there's always horse stories. I don't know. Trying to think of something. Well, one of the was a really upsetting one was a 4th of July in Carmichael at the Elks Club, and we had parked, and the parade was over. We were loading to go home, and my husband somehow managed to lock the keys in the pickup, and the pickup was running. It was very, very hot, and he had the air conditioner on full blast, and trying to
Oh, gosh.
get the horses loaded. Here we're locked out of the truck, and I don't remember how we finally got the keys out of that truck. I do not remember. I just remember he was beside himself trying to get it situated. So that was one of the things. So we basically never had any big problems in parading. We just, my horses were real good, and they loaded and handled good, and they were not afraid of any of the various things that were in parades.
You ride a horse in a parade, I have to
Yeah,
say from experience.
the Rose Parade, we had a float behind us that had a dragon blowing smoke. And Joyce's horse was not. Gambler is a little more sensitive to the hustler. You couldn't rattle him at all. He didn't care about whatever was there. But Gambler really took, every time that dragon blew smoke, Gambler jumped. You know,
Yeah,
she was a little nervous about it. But the Rose Parade is a challenge. And that's a tough one. I mean, because it's a lot. Most parades, it's a lot of hurry up, get ready, get judged, and wait, and try to keep your horse calm and cool. And a horse is what a parade horse, for the most part, is once they're ready, let's go. They don't like standing around, and there's an awful lot of standing around. But that was one of the problems. Was a dragon behind us, blowing smoke. Trying to think.
this last year I had the Hell's Angel behind me.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And so I was thinking, if you're going to be in a parade, I've never thought of it before, but you need to know who's in front.
yeah,
It better not be horses that
yeah,
are unless the Boy Scouts are there to take care of things.
yeah,
And you don't want like the logging truck or the
yeah.
Hell's Angel.
Joyce and I, that was the other thing. In doing the parade,
Yeah.
we were very careful. We really protected our horse entries.
Yeah,
Be sure that they had something in front and behind them that the horse could handle.
right.
Because there's a lot of things. One time we were in, I don't know, down around the Bay Area, the town will come to me. We had a Chinese gong band behind us. And I'll tell you,
Oh,
Joyce always said I kissed the ground when we got back. And that was long before the paint. It was when we were riding chestnuts, we had Wildfire. And Wildfire never liked a parade anyway. And he was just beside himself with that band behind us. My husband said he was at the end of the parade route waiting for us to get finished, that he could hear the announcer saying, "There's a couple of horses out of control." And he said, "I knew it was you guys." I knew it was. And it was. I mean, Wildfire was all over the place. Alita was not bad, but Wildfire he hated a parade. Absolutely. I don't think we ever went by the judges' stand in a formation that was parade worthy. He was dancing around doing something because he did not like a parade. So the
and
minute,
you had him in the parade quite a few times.
well, by himself it wasn't quite so bad, but when you're trying to ride matched pair and be together and turning together and doing all that together, and you got a horse that's being a complete jerk, and he was being I just lost Wildfire. He was 40 years old.
Wow.
And he had been in umpteen, even though he didn't like a parade, we always used him. Somebody was forever needing a horse, and that's who they got was Wildfire. He wasn't going to hurt you, but he was not going to behave himself either. But, that was one of the times when John Garamendi came in late. We put him on a horse like Wildfire because we had to find a horse at the last minute because he didn't have any way to get through the parade. But, and we had some rainy days, unfortunately.
Yes.
Some rain. West Point can have a real, I mean, I sat through the rain more than once in West Point. And one year that it rained so hard and I felt so bad, it was a young girl, she's probably about 10, from the valley, state champion Indian costume. And it was a white leather beaded costume. It was absolutely gorgeous, and she was outstanding. And in the rain, it just absolutely pouring. And there's no way to get out of it. You're sitting on a horse, you're just going to get drowned. And I felt bad about her costume and things. I remember her name, but I don't remember. I know she got wet.
Yeah, one year I had a student on my horse, so she could be in the parade.
Mm-hmm.
And we got just down to the corner, and I looked over to the west, and I could see these black clouds coming. And I told her, I'm going to run up the hill with the horse because I was holding a lead. Mm-hmm. And she goes, where are we going? I said, I'm looking for cover.
Yeah.
We got up to the awning under the school.
Yeah.
And that year, I just rode him home. I didn't even trailer him.
Yeah.
But that was, to see those black clouds.
It can happen. It can happen.
Yeah. Lorene, how did you get started in your love for horses that led to?
Well, my mother loved horses, and my mother was raised in Montana in a sod house, 10 children, a one-room sod house. She rode a horse to school. She was next to the oldest. She always loved horses, and in her final years, in her writings, was always letters back to Montana wanting her horse. And she always said in her letters, she had bottle raised a Mustang, an orphan, and raised it and rode it to school. And when the family moved from Montana to California, she had to leave her horse. Of course, she'd never get over that. So her letters were always very poignant, saying, I had a horse, her daughter had a horse trailer, we could come and get Dolly. And so it's because of my mother. And so when we moved to West Point, I always had a horse. I had a horse as a child, 5 or 6 years old. A friend of my folks bought me a horse, brought it to me for a present, I don't know, birthday or whatever, and with a saddle and the whole thing, all ready to ride. But that was the first horse I had. And when we moved to West Point, that horse, I think something happened to her. She never was very dependable. She's always running away with me. But I'd try to take a ride and I would get home really fast. He would turn around and
handle a runaway horse?
Runaway horse. So when we moved to West Point, I had a horse when we moved up here. It was a little black and white, small horse, black and white, pinto. And I didn't have a pasture, so I had to keep her on a chain, on a picket chain, because my dad didn't have the property fenced. And Dad didn't think that fencing a piece of property to keep a horse was very sensible. A cow was one thing, because we could get milk or meat from it, but a horse was just a drain. And so he was never very happy about me having a horse, but my mother always insisted that I have a horse. And one of the things that happened during that time period was my mother wanted me to take piano lessons, and we didn't have a piano. So where I had to practice the piano was in the church. So I would ride from Wilsonville to West Point to practice the piano. Well, needless to say, I never was ever a piano player, but I could ride horses pretty good.
Yeah.
I hated the piano. I
It's a
got
nice ride too.
I got along with the horse just fine. So yeah, I rode horses all my life. I had them all my life, and I always that was one thing. My mother passed away before we did the Rose Parade, and was always felt bad that she didn't get to see us in the Rose Parade. She never missed it, even when she went into a assisted living. She never missed a lumberjack day. She would, I would always go to San Andreas and pick her up and bring her up, and she'd get her a chair and sit by the street and watch the parade. I mean, she absolutely loved horses, and so that was my love.
So did your mother encourage you to be in parades when you were young?
Oh no, she did. I always wanted to go, but we didn't have a horse trailer.
Yes.
I can remember trying to talk her into letting me ride to McCollum Hill so I could be in the 4th of July parade, but it never came to pass. And my dad could not be bothered with buying a horse trailer. I mean, that would have been the furthest thing from his mind. But no,
That's a long ride to McCollum.
yeah, but as a kid, I thought, oh, I could do it,
Yeah.
not camp along the road or something.
Oh.
No, I always loved horses, and it came from my mother. Always had horses up until now. And I'm sorry, but I miss them terrible. Yeah, I really do. But it's just too much for me.
Yeah, to keep on.
And I had to realize that. I've offered my pastor to people, but nobody's taken me up.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's a hard thing to do, too. If you have a horse, you want it close by. You don't really want it off on somebody else's field. So I understand that.
Right. Well, when we got our horses back in the day, you kept them over there for us.
Yeah.
We got ourselves organized.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really wonderful that you know. We were
No, I always loved horses.
Yeah.
It's a love you never get over. Yeah.
So Lumberjack Day. I know that you're sometimes a little bit sad of the transformations, but really it's gone through a lot of changes over the years. And so I think it will kind of survive.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little concerned with what the county does as far as permits and stuff like that. They're making it really tough. And it's hard to do a community celebration anymore because of insurance and because of all the liabilities and I mean, the county's way off, or the state or whoever is doing the charging for using the highway. I mean, that's ridiculous. We all pay taxes, and so it upsets me. And but there's rules, and you have to abide by them.
Right.
So I don't know how that's all going to pan out. But it's I mean, there's everywhere they turn, the committee nowadays has got roadblocks, permits, and it makes it tough to do a celebration.
What began as a two-woman show takes a committee to try to
Yeah,
negotiate now.
right. Right. Well, one year, the only time we ever had a problem, it was 2 times over the years, 2 things we worried about. One was a disc jockey from one of the radio stations in Sacramento that entered one of the logging things and got cut with a chainsaw, with a saw.
Oh,
Yeah, got a pretty good cut. And they took her to the hospital, and it was on her leg, I believe. But Joyce and I immediately sent her flowers
yeah.
in the hospital. I mean, and nothing ever came of it, but we were scared to death she would sue us. And then one time a soapbox derby got out of control and hit a lady and knocked the lady down.
Oh,
That was down, it was at the end pretty close to the end of the run where they'd had the race. And that's something Joyce and I started. We came up with that idea of doing the soapbox derby, and it has really evolved into a good event.
Oh, the kids and families love it. It's
Yeah.
open in the morning.
Yeah,
The day starts with a pancake breakfast.
yeah.
I mean, it's all
There's,
kinds of stuff going on.
yeah. But then soapbox derbies, the West Point, auto group that has vintage autos and has a car club, they have helped sponsor and give out some very nice awards to the kids, and I think that's great, the soapbox derby.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And now we have classic cars there.
yeah.
Classic car show.
Oh, our car show was fantastic. And again, we came up with that idea. It generated money for Lumberjack Day, and it pretty much stands on its own now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, we have somebody that runs it and takes charge of all the prizes, and it's a very good car show. Yeah.
It is. Well, I have to tell you real quick, my sister's partner is French, and they came here a few years back, and they'd been in Tahiti,
Uh-huh.
and then they came here for Lumberjack Day. And he went home to France and told everyone about Lumberjack Day, and he didn't care that much for Tahiti.
Oh.
He just loved Lumberjack Day. So if he can't be here, I get him a T-shirt and a mug,
Uh-huh.
because he just thought that was the best ever.
Yeah, well, I think it is. People that, if you've never been to a small town celebration, it's pretty impressive,
Yeah,
very impressive.
yeah.
And then the whole nucleus of it, what started it was the parade.
Right. Mhm. So Lorene, I'm going to go down to Sacramento and see what the Calaveras window looks like at the
Oh,
state capitol.
yeah.
And I'll report back and tell you.
Yeah, if I'd be happy to loan them some memorabilia. We've got T-shirts and all kinds of things that we could put in there if they would take care of them. I don't want to lose them.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, but for the whole county, this is the star of the show.
yeah. I don't think West Point gets enough credit for what they've done as a community.
No, we're kind of lost in the foothills, aren't we?
Yeah,
Some people don't even know where we are.
yeah. A lot of people, I think equate us more with Jackson and Amador County than they do with Calaveras.
Mhm. So, yeah,
But everything we've done, look at this youth center. I mean, it's very impressive, very impressive. Now I'm hoping, because they're going to do this vacant lot we have down here, they're going to try to do a park for West Point, which it's going to take some work, but it'd be a great thing to have a little park. And I don't know. I know the people that, oh, excuse me, I'm bumping you. I know the people that are working on it have got a lot of work ahead of them.
well, one of these things is to have something that's for the community, it takes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found out with Lumberjack Day, or possibly the park, is that it takes the village.
Oh, yeah,
And we're pretty good at being a village.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you didn't mention, I don't think, that you taught at West Point Elementary
Oh, no, I didn't.
for 35?
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah,
All three of my kids had to.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I started Lumberjack Day for the parade. I always thought of how important it was to have a parade and for the kids. I said they may not remember too much about school, but they'll never forget being in the parade.
Right. Right. So you taught there, and I think you always taught third grade, right?
Well, I taught in Railroad Flat
I started there too.
for a couple of years, and I had 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in one room,
Oh, boy.
30 kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was 1960 because it was the year Kim was born.
right.
So, but they were wonderful kids, wonderful, and I had fond memories. I mean, I still see kids that I had in Railroad Flat, well, in West Point too.
Right. Now you're looking at their grandkids.
Yeah, yeah.
But your work at the school was always top
Yeah.
notch.
Yeah, well, I want to be sure too that I didn't just do West Point Lumberjack Day, that Joyce Ballard was very involved. Joyce did all the paperwork, kept the books, did all the treasury. besides riding with me and helping me get the interest and keep the interest up in Lumberjack Day. Yeah, she was a great partner, and would have been here today, but she's had major back surgery and problems. But
And we also know she's shy.
yeah, she didn't really want to do it.
She's the silent partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the two of you, I don't think you could have done it by yourself.
Oh, no. Especially in the first, I guess it was probably 5 years before we were able to take care of ourselves money-wise, at least 5 years. So, but we did everything we could think of to try to make money. We really did.
Cupcake sales?
Pardon?
Cupcake sales?
Yeah, no, not that so much, but we did booths along the street to start out. And we had a lot of volunteers, locals, who, for instance, collected the money for the booths on that day, help help them set up, and there was somebody selling T-shirts. It was definitely a community affair.
Right.
And then probably 10 women pulling wagons with beer, selling beer. I mean, that beer sale was a big part of it. And beer and T-shirts.
Right.
And then, we did some things in between too. We did some dinners and things like that we cooked and sold tickets for. And we were always out doing anything we could to make money for Lumberjack Day.
Right. So, yeah, funding events like this over the years, and it grew from just you and Joyce.
Yeah.
And you have to have more people involved.
Yeah.
The people have stepped up. So
Well, it's a car show.
yeah.
I mean, we started a car show. We started it, but we had to have somebody take it over and do it. I mean, we had enough on our plate trying to keep the parade going to get out and try to drum up business for our car show. But we always had Lumberjack Day flyers in our cars, and anytime we saw a vintage car or a classic or whatever, they got a flyer on their car. And we brought it in a lot of cars too at the same time. I mean, we were always out there working for Lumberjack Day.
Yeah.
And it's entries like the Tuolumne Sheriff's Posse, the whole time Joyce and I were doing it, they never missed. And of course, we stayed after it because it was the men running the Tuolumne Sheriff's Posse, and they were always late with their entry. But we always stayed on the phone and was sure that we had them entered in the parade. And you have to do that because people aren't necessarily responsible for getting in their entries.
You saved them a spot.
Huh?
You saved them a spot.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I made many a call on Friday night before the parade to be sure the entry was coming.
I want to thank you, Lorene, because you have contributed so much to
Well,
our community, to our children, the outreach you've done, the hard work you've done.
yeah.
And then I have to say, just seeing you in the parade, in your beautiful costumes, on your gorgeous horses, was always a highlight of the parade.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the reception we always got
Yeah.
from the community. I mean, always. I've got, in fact, one of the pictures I got in here is one of the last times I rode in the parade, and that's pictures that someone took and sent to me.
Right.
People always were very, and that was really a beautiful horse. That was a very exciting time